Every single day, 300 million Americans log into their bank accounts, send classified emails, access hospital records, connect to government systems. They do it without thinking twice, because they trust the invisible walls around the internet. But those walls, those checkpoints that decide what gets through and what doesn't, the system that inspects 250 billion digital transactions every single day, that wasn't built by a Silicon Valley legacy firm. It wasn't built by a defense contractor with a Pentagon contract. It was built by a man who grew up in a village of 800 people, in a place with no electricity and no running water, who used to walk 4 kilometers through the dark every morning just to reach a school. A man who, 40 years later, would quietly become the architect of the door every major corporation, government, and military agency walks through to enter the internet. And almost no one knows his name. Today, we're counting down the 5 most powerful Indian-American families who built the invisible infrastructure of the internet's security, the checkpoints you cross every day without knowing it. The fortunes are staggering. The stories are wilder than anything you've seen on this channel. Wait until you hear who's at number 1. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe right now. We're just getting started, and you don't want to miss what's coming at number 1. Number 5, the Khosla family. The architect of the internet's bones. Before there was cloud security, someone had to build the cloud. Before Zscaler, before Palo Alto networks, before any of the names on this list existed, there was a young man from a military family in Pune, India, who read a single article about Intel at age 16 and decided, in that moment, that his entire life would be dedicated to building technology companies in America. That young man was Vinod Khosla. He arrived in the United States in the late 1970s with a degree in electrical engineering from IIT Delhi and exactly enough money to enroll at Carnegie Mellon, then Stanford. Then, in 1982, he co-founded Sun Microsystems, the company whose workstations and servers became the literal hardware backbone on which the modern internet was built. Sun didn't just participate in the digital revolution, Sun was the foundation it stood on. But Vinod Khosla wasn't done building foundations. He left Sun in 1986 for venture capital, first at Kleiner Perkins, then in 2004, launching Khosla Ventures with his own family's money. The strategy was simple and brutal. Find ideas that conventional wisdom called impossible, and bet everything on them. His firm backed Juniper Networks, which went on to challenge Cisco's stranglehold on internet routing. He helped incubate Cerent Corporation, which Cisco eventually acquired for $7.2 billion. And years before the rest of Silicon Valley woke up to it, Khosla Ventures quietly placed an early position in OpenAI. The Khosla family keeps a deliberately low profile. His wife and children almost never appear in public. Vinod himself calls what he does not venture capital, but venture assistance. The distinction matters to him. He doesn't just write checks, he builds. By 2025, Khosla Ventures managed approximately $15 billion in investment capital. Vinod's personal net worth, $9.2 billion, according to Forbes, making him the second wealthiest Indian American in the United States. He built the bones. The rest of this list built the locks on the doors. Number 4, the Biswas family. The man who put eyes on everything. In 2012, a young Indian American engineer in San Francisco sold his first company for $1.2 billion. The buyer was Cisco. The product was Meraki, a wireless networking platform that made enterprise Wi-Fi management invisible and effortless. Most people have never heard of it. Most people use it every day. That engineer was Sanjit Biswas. He was 30 years old, he had $1.2 billion, and he walked out of the Cisco acquisition and immediately started building again. This time, the target was bigger. Biswas had watched the physical world trucks, warehouses, industrial equipment, government vehicles fall dangerously behind the digital revolution. Billions of dollars in physical assets were moving across America with almost no real-time visibility, no security layer, no intelligence. So in 2015, he founded Samsara, not a software company. Not a pure cybersecurity play. Something different, an Internet of Things platform designed to give organizations eyes and control over every physical thing they owned. Today, Samsara serves over 47,000 organizations, from the fleets of Walmart and Amazon to the vehicle systems of state and federal government agencies. Every school bus in certain districts, every utility repair truck, every highway patrol vehicle in some states. When you call 911 and a city truck responds, there's a real chance it's being monitored through Samsara's platform. The Biswas family's stake in Samsara, which went public in 2021, is valued in the range of $3 to $4 billion. But the number that matters more is this. Samsara now processes data from over 1 trillion sensor readings per year. That's not a software company. That's physical infrastructure, the kind you can't replace overnight. Sanjit Biswas didn't just put eyes on the internet. He put eyes on the world itself. Number 3. The Arora Thapar family, the man who faced 400 rejections. In 1990, a 22-year-old from Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh, landed at an American airport with exactly $3,000 in his pocket, a degree from IIT, Varanasi, and no job. What followed was one of the most humiliating stretches in any billionaire's biography. He sent out hundreds of applications. The rejections came back one after another after another. By his own account, he received over 400 rejection letters before anyone gave him a shot. 400. That man was Nikesh Aurora. And instead of going home, he did something that most people wouldn't have the stomach for. He framed one of those rejection letters and put it on his wall. He eventually broke in at Fidelity Investments, then T-Mobile Europe. Then, in 2004, he joined a small but rapidly growing technology company called Google, becoming its first outside vice president hire. Over the next decade, he built Google's European advertising business into an $8 billion operation and became the highest paid executive at the company. By 2012, his annual compensation from Google alone was approximately $51 million. Then came SoftBank, where Arora served as president and COO under Masayoshi Son, the most aggressive technology investor of his generation. Then, in June 2018, he took command of Palo Alto Networks, then an $18 billion cybersecurity company struggling to find its identity in a cloud-first world. He turned it into a $130 billion platform. Under Aurora's leadership, Palo Alto Networks stopped being a collection of security products and became what he called a platformization engine, an integrated, AI-powered security command center that enterprises and governments run their entire defensive posture through. In 2023, his total compensation from Palo Alto Networks was $151.4 million more than Mark Zuckerberg, more than Sundar Pichai, more than Satya Nadella. The CEO to worker pay ratio at Palo Alto that year, 735 to 1. And there is one more layer to this family that almost no coverage mentions. In 2014, Nikesh Aurora married Ayesha Thapar, the daughter of Vikram Thapar, joint managing director of Balapur Industries, heir to the Thapar Group, one of India's oldest and most powerful industrial dynasties. Founded by Karam Chand Thapar in the early 20th century, the Thapar family controls paper mills, power plants, and chemical companies across the subcontinent. Their wedding was a 3-day ceremony in Italy, with US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick among the guests at their daughter's wedding celebration in 2026. 2 empires, 1 family. Nikesh Aurora's net worth, $1.5 billion. The man who collected 400 rejection letters now runs the world's most advanced cybersecurity company. Those letters are still framed on his wall. Before we get to the top 2, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. The 2 names coming up are ones most people have never heard of, but you interact with what they built every single day. Don't miss this. Number 2, the Chaudhry family. The couple who bet everything on the internet. December 1996, Atlanta, Georgia. A 38-year-old engineer named Joti Chaudhry is sitting across from his wife, Jyoti. They have 3 kids. They both have stable, well-paying corporate jobs. Jay is an executive at IQ Software, Jyoti is a systems analyst at Bell South, one of the largest telecommunications companies in the country. And they are about to throw all of it away. Jay had been watching Netscape. He'd been watching the internet explode out of university labs and into the real world. And he'd seen something that almost no one else had seen yet, that as every Fortune 500 company connected to the internet, every Fortune 500 company would become a target. Security wasn't a feature. It was going to be the entire game. So Jay and Joti Chaudhry quit their jobs on the same day. They mortgaged their house. They combined their life savings, every dollar they had accumulated over 15 years of working into a single account. The total came to approximately $500,000. And they used it to launch Secure IT, an internet security software company, at a time when fewer than 5% of Fortune 500 companies even had firewalls. The move was not logical. It was not safe. It was not what anyone from a small farming village in Himachal Pradesh was supposed to do. It worked. In 1998, less than 2 years after launch, VeriSign acquired Secure IT, the deal, roughly $70 million in stock. 70 of Secure IT's 80 employees became millionaires overnight. Jay and Joti were no longer just surviving, they were accelerating. But here's what the financial headlines missed. The Chaudhry family didn't spend that money. They used it to build again. Cypher Trust, an email security company launched in 2000, acquired by McAfee in 2006 for $274 million. Core Harbor, a managed e-commerce platform acquired by AT&T. Air Defense, a wireless security pioneer, acquired by Motorola in 2008. 4 companies, 4 successful exits. And then, in 2007, Jay Chaudhry invested $50 million of his own family's money, not venture capital money, not institutional money, his own money into a company that would define the next era of internet security. That company was Zscaler. The idea behind Zscaler was deceptively simple and radically ahead of its time. The internet had changed, but security hadn't. Companies were still relying on on-premise firewalls and VPN's physical boxes bolted to data centers to protect a workforce that was increasingly mobile, cloud-connected, and distributed. Jay Chaudhry's insight was that security needed to move to the cloud, not adapt to the cloud. Move there entirely. Create a new kind of checkpoint, not a wall around a building, but an invisible perimeter that followed every user, every device, every connection, everywhere in the world. Investors thought he was wrong. Competitors called it impossible. Major technology companies approached the Chaudhry family with acquisition offers before the IPO. The numbers were large enough to retire on. Jay said no. He and Joti owned the company. No major VC had more than a small slice. They controlled the vision, the timeline, the roadmap. When outside investors pushed back on the pace of investment, Jay answered with his own capital. On the 16th of March, 2018, Zscaler went public on the Nasdaq. The family's stake, over 40% of the company, was suddenly worth billions. By 2025, Zscaler's market capitalization reached $46 billion. Jay Chaudhry's net worth climbed to $17.9 billion, a 70% increase in a single year, according to Forbes. He still drives a modest car. He still reads architecture documents. And Joti, the woman who quit her job on the same day, who managed the finance and human resources and kept every company stable, while Jay ran forward, still barely appears in headlines. She doesn't have a Forbes page. She never gave the keynote. She was always the foundation. The most important person for my success, Jay has said publicly, is my wife, Joti Chaudhry. Without her, none of this would have happened. Remember the checkpoint I mentioned at the beginning of this video? We'll come back to it, right now. 5 families, 5 fortunes, built not from inheritance, not from proximity to power, but from seeing with absolute clarity what the internet would become before the internet itself knew. Vinod Khosla built the hardware the internet runs on. Sanjit Biswas put eyes on the physical world. Nikesh Aurora built the command center for the AI security era. And Jay and Joti Chaudhry, quietly, from a city no one was watching, built the checkpoint itself. What we didn't cover today is the next generation, the children of these families who are already moving inside the corridors of Silicon Valley, Washington, and global finance. And the real question nobody is asking: if Zscaler processes 250 billion transactions a day for the world's governments and militaries, what happens to global security if that system ever fails? Who is the backup? Does one exist? And one more: how many families like these are operating right now, fortunes in the billions, power over critical infrastructure, and we still don't know their names? If this video opened your eyes, subscribe to Apex Status. Hit the bell so you never miss a drop. And tell me in the comments, which family surprised you the most? We read every single one. We are tracking the money